Well, hello there, Mike Manazir here. Hopefully you've heard my name before because you've read my book, Learn How to Lead to Win. Maybe you've read the maxims. Maybe you've even gotten the study guide. But today I'd like to unwrap three concepts that are essential to leading from the heart. Principles that go beyond rank or title, truly transform how you lead and connect with others. I'm going to tell you a story today. Then I'm going to cite the science that supports the underlying principle. And then I'm going to give you a call to action. That sound okay? All right. Hey, ready to go? Let's go. First, I'm going to start with the story. So back in 1997, when I first commanded VF 31, which was a command of about 350 people, I had been in the Navy about, 14 years or so, 15 years. And it was the first leadership opportunity that I had. And as I'm approaching that idea about leading, I thought about a couple of things. The first one was, why is morale important? And that was kind of running through my head. And the idea of morale is making sure that you get the best out of your team, their best performance, because they're committed to you. Now, how do you commit them to you? You're just the person with the title, right? I was the skipper. I was the boss. I had the name tag. They all knew who I was. But you know what? I thought of something. There were 350 people in my squadron. And I thought, well, if they don't think I care about them, then they might think, well, why should I work for this guy? And so I created a scenario in my head that drove action for me. My call to action was a scenario in my head. This actually never happened. But what I did was I created a scenario where I was in the base exchange, kind of like the Target or the Walmart of being on base. So I'm in the store and up comes this man and this young man, and he is very excited to introduce his young wife and his little baby daughter in a stroller to me. Sir, I want to introduce my wife, Susie, and my little girl, Sally. And so I go, hey, and so it's obvious that he works for me, but he's in civilian clothes, and I don't know who he is. And so I do the politician thing and go, oh, hi, man, how are you? Great to see you. All this kind of stuff. Shake his hand. Oh, Sally, or Susie, the wife, it's really nice. Thanks for your support. And who's this? Oh, little Sally down here. Is that your little bear? Do all the politician stuff. But I never actually call a man by his name. And I never actually know that or make him think that I know him. And so the thing in my head was, and again, and this is a scenario, hypothetical, never actually happened because I didn't let it happen, was they would walk away from me and the man's wife looks at him and says, and you're asking me to stay in the Navy, like re-up another 3 or 4 years? That guy right there has had you coming in 7 days a week to get ready to go out on cruise, to get ready to fix the airplanes. You've missed Sally's anniversary or birthday celebrations. You've missed our anniversary. You've missed the school stuff. You missed all stuff. And he doesn't even know you work for him. Now, why would we do that? And so that's my story. So what I did, I learned 350 people's names. I learned every one of their names. And I looked at their name tag and I learned them and I connected a feature or something, or I knew where they worked, and I called them by name on a regular basis. And so I would remember their name so that when they were in civilian clothes with no name tag on their uniform, I could say, hey, Petr Smith, how are you doing? And it got to be this legend around the squadron that the skipper knew everybody. He knew everybody's name. Well, then that must mean that I care about them because I took the time to learn their name. So the core concept I want to tell you about, the first core concept is this is transformational leadership, where what you're doing is you're not leading with your title, but you're caring about the humans that are in your organization. In my case, a squadron. Maybe in your case, it's a company or a group of people that's getting together, and you're making them feel like you're connected. You're making them feel like you care. You're leading from your heart because you took the time to learn their name. Bernard Bass and Bruce Avolio did extensive research on this. They demonstrated that transformational leadership enhances motivation, morale, and performance. Leaders who are inspirational, intellectually stimulating, and that considerate of their followers create more engaged and productive teams. It's a fact. It happened to me my entire 36 years in the US Navy. When I was the commanding officer of USS Nimitz, before that, the executive officer of USS Carl Vinson, the crew that belonged to me, 3,500 people. And guess what? It got around the ship that the XO or the skipper, whichever role I had at the time, knew everybody's names. I didn't know 3,500 names, but I knew some key people. And so I'd run around like the galley and I'd go, "Hey, Pastor Smith, what's going on? Let's serve some chow," and put on a little paper outfit and a hat on my head. And I'd make sure the sailors got the green stuff that their mom wanted them to have and not all the greasy, stuff like that. But people thought I knew everybody's names. And then they'll think you care. You have to be authentic about it, though. Make sure you're authentic. You can't fake it. You can't fake your caring, but you know their names, and you want to make sure you learn their names. And you know what? Here's a secret. If you ever forget somebody's name, look them in the eye, put your hand on their shoulder and say, "I knew your name once. Please remind me what your name is." They'll tell you and go, "Okay, I will never forget." And that's how you learn to do that. A lot of people run around and go, "I'm not good at names." Figure out a way to learn it, and you will look like you care for everybody that works for you. So what I want you to do with this concept of transformational leadership is not only learn people's names, but identify another way you can inspire someone on your team today through encouragement, empowerment, or simply leading by example. And you notice I say inspire someone on your team. You inspire one person at a time. Guess what? They're going to tell people they're connected with you. And then the other teammates are going to want to be connected with you too. And so when you connect with everybody on this individual nature, these threads coming out of your heart, you're going to enhance that. And guess what? Morale's going to go up. That concept I asked myself before I took command. You can lift the load for someone on your team today just by connecting with them personally. So start with that. And then do it again tomorrow and the day after that. Okay, guys, that's one. Okay. All right. So I'll keep going, right? Okay. Ben, any critiques? Yeah, you're on mute again. Sorry. Keep going. Okay.
All right. I think it was great. Laura, you good?
Yeah, I think that was great. That was good.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just roll, brother, roll.
Okay, man.
Yep.
All right. So let's go to concept number 2. So, of course, I have another story for you. So I'm the executive officer of the USS Carl Vinson. It was 2001, the middle of 2001. In fact, I was the XO of Carl Vinson, rounding the southern tip of India on 9/11, but that's another story. And so executive officers, they're in charge of things down and in the ship. So the captain of an aircraft carrier, he's called up and out. So in your organization, your company, the CEO is like an up and out person. You're strategic. You're connecting relationships from your company to other companies. And your COO and other C-suite folks are they're down and in. And so on an aircraft carrier, the executive officer is the down and in officer. So the executive officer, and I was a Carl Vinson executive officer, I'm responsible for everything that happens inside the ship and responsible to the captain for all this, including cleanliness. And so I would walk around the ship with my big Sabre radio. It's about that big. We called it the brick because it literally felt like you were hanging onto a brick the whole time. And you're talking to the brick. And of course, all the department heads who worked for me, there were 18 department heads on an aircraft carrier, 18 departments, 3,500 people attached to the aircraft carrier, and then another 2,000 or so assigned to the air wing. So a total of about 5,500 people on a carrier. But directly reporting to the XO is 3,500 people responsible for the spaces around the ship. And on the bulkheads or the walls of the carrier, there's a yellow sign, painted on sign with black lettering on it. It's called a bullseye. And the bullseye is the compartment numbers, so you find your way around the ship, and then who's responsible for it. So I would walk around the ship and it would say like supply department and stuff. And so I'd walk into a space that looked like it needed some work, right? It needed some cleaning, or something was going on, or there was a leak, or there was a noise that we needed to investigate. And it would say like supply. So I'd get on the brick and I'd go Suppo XO for supply officer XO. And they knew if I was walking around the ship, they'd like, oh no, the XO's running around. Yes, sir, I'll be right there. Where are you? You know, kind of an answer like that. So anyway, I am running around the ship like XOs do. On this particular day, we were flying, and I went up the starboard side of the carrier, way up towards the bow. And there's like a space, an area there where all of the traffic down and up to the flight deck to the O3 level, which is the level right below the flight deck where the ready rooms are, where maintenance control is to sign out airplanes and stuff, that they could come down, talk to their supervisors, go back up to the flight deck. Very greasy, horribly bad space. Always hard to keep clean. It was assigned to the supply department. They were supposed to keep it clean, but the air wing would go through there all the time. And so it was really bad. Anyway, I step over what they call the knee knocker on a carrier, which is kind of this big oval hatch. And so you got to be careful because the bottom of it is about halfway up your shin, and it's very, very hard steel. And the top of it is kind of about here in your head. So you kind of have to duck through and step over at the same time. So hence the thing knee knocker. Right. So if you're running real fast, you don't pick up your leg and you whack yourself in the shin, it hurts. Okay. Or if you don't duck, or some people would step on the lower shelf and then run through, you get hit in the head and you're going down to medical. So anyway, I step over the knee knocker and step into the space, and it is really bad. And I look around and I look at the space. I note on the bullseye at supply officer space, and I look down, and there is a young sailor who is using a toothbrush to get the built up wax out of the corner of the joint between the wall and the floor, or the bulkhead and the deck. And he's down there. The space is horrible. And so I could walk into that space and assume that sailor was responsible for the cleanliness of the space, because that's what usually happened. There'd be somebody that was responsible there, and blame him for that. And rail up and down and yell at him and tell him he's doing a terrible job. He's not keeping the space clean. And I'm the XO and I have to have clean spaces. And by God, you better work harder at cleaning the space. What I really thought about right then was, oh my gosh, he is actually taking the time to do the detail work with a toothbrush to, even though the rest of the space needs to be clean, I was sure he was going to do the work necessary to clean up that space. So I put my hand down on his shoulder. He's kneeling down below me. He kind of sees boots and feet, thinks somebody's just walking through in his way again because he's trying to do his work. By the way, who knows how long he's been away from home? Who knows what his situation is right now? Maybe he got really bad news from home. Maybe he's homesick. Maybe he's scared. Maybe he's lonely. Maybe his shipmates don't like him, or something about life for him is not good. Plus the fact he's down on the floor on his hands and knees scrubbing, and maybe the recruiter told him he was going to do cool things in the Navy, and here he is down there scrubbing the deck, right? So I reached down, put my hand on his shoulder. He looks up sideways at me, sees XO, pretty much no, and just about kills himself leaping up to attention. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, sorry, sir. I didn't see you. No. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you so much for you doing the detail work here. This space is always so hard to keep clean. It's so hard to get the grease off the walls. And here you are doing the detail work. And you know what? If you didn't do this, then this space wouldn't even come close to being clean. So thank you for caring. Another thought ran through my head. 3,500 crew around there, and the number of times that I would talk to individual crew members, not very often during the day. Let's say this is the only time that this guy ever saw the XO. And the memory is I ripped his head off. What he's really going to remember is I took the time to care about him, and I don't have to care about him. Then I got on the brig and said, "Suppo, XO." "Yes, sir. Where are you?" Came up, and so I could get this kid some help. So the core concept I want to describe here is emotional intelligence. It's actually the new measure of leadership success. So in this case, where's the emotional intelligence in what I did? So I step over the knee knocker. It takes me a couple of seconds. And in that couple of seconds, I assess the situation. And I'm looking at this sailor down there. I'm looking at the dirty space, and I'm going, what am I going to do here? I'm responsible for the standard. I'm the boss. Maybe the captain's going to give me grief as the XO because the spaces are dirty and I'm worried about what my boss is going to do to me or tell me if I'm not making this work. So of course I can transmit to the sailor, do you not understand that the captain needs these places clean? So you guys all know this. Some boss is talking to you and you're transmitting that pressure to your team. No. You want to be the protection to your team. And that's what this is. This is the emotional intelligence of protecting your team. What's the science behind this? So Daniel Goleman's research shows that EI, or emotional intelligence, or the EQ, emotional quotient, EQ leadership is crucial for leadership effectiveness. Remember the first story, connecting? You got to connect with people. But if you don't use emotional intelligence and you're tone deaf to what's going on, or you just or don't care what's going on, and all you're looking at is the effect, you're not going to connect with them. So it's particularly effective in managing relationships, building a positive work culture. High EI or EQ leaders are better equipped to handle stress, make informed decisions, and foster a collaborative environment. Because you can depressurize the situation. Something's presented to you and the team that's not good, and you're looking out at that thing. The last thing you want to do is look left and right or fore and aft and just flame spray your team because they don't understand what's going on. You go, hey guys, what are we going to do here? Okay, that emotional intelligence, that connection with your team and understanding what the situation requires. Again, leading from your personality and from your heart, not from the title or the expectation, here it comes. The other powerful part is, if you're down there looking at something and you're the boss and the team, before you come through the door, imagine what they're talking about before you come through the door. They're going to go, oh, he's going to be pissed. Oh no, this is oh my gosh. So when you step in and you're actually not, you go, hey guys, yeah, good, what's going on? And you're even-handed with them, you're objective, take the bad news and go, yeah, that's kind of bad. So what do you guys think we ought to do? And you don't, flame spray them, you collect them inside as a group and you look around and say, this is what we're going to do. You get a double reaction there because they expected you to come in and just hammer everybody, which of course you can do, right? You can come in, hammer everybody and go out the door and say, you guys fix this, go out the door. Is that going to be effective? Heck no. All of us have been in a situation like this. Through my time in the Navy, the number of times I was presented with situations like that as a senior officer, to walk in the door, flame spray everybody, and then say, fix it, and walk out, hundreds. And I know you do too. So what's your call to action here? The good news is emotional intelligence can be learned. Daniel Goleman's book, The Emotionally Intelligent Leader, will take you through an emotional intelligence assessment to understand your strengths and areas for improvement, maybe those blind spots you have. Commit to one small change. So I'll tell you another book, Atomic Habits, that talks about when you want to change habits or changes, you do one small change at a time. So just pick a couple of small things and tweak them a little bit. Remember, if you connect with your team through your heart with emotional intelligence, you will get better performance. It's not going to be effective if you just go, you know what, I'm just going to nail them and just go from there. You're going to get better performance. So if you practice this, it's going to be for improvement of yourself and your team. One that I'm really, one of my favorites is active listening. Many of us listen and we interrupt or we give advice, or, we can't wait to, for our turn, we have a better idea. We just have to talk. But active listening, where you're really connecting with somebody and you're actively listening to what they're saying and you're getting the message out from them and you're asking collaborative questions and calibrated questions about what they're really talking about so you understand, that will really enhance your emotional intelligence, both internally and externally as you're being observed. And Bill Clinton, when he was president, he was very famous for making people feel like they were the only person in the room. He wasn't looking around, seeing who else to talk to. So when you have that emotional intelligence and you're making them feel like they're the only person in the room, and you have to practice because there's a lot of distractions. So maintain eye contact, lean in, make sure you're talking and listening to them, listen to their voice, tune out everything else. If you do that and give them your full attention, they will think you care about them. And remember the old quote, people will probably forget what you say. They will likely forget what you do, but they will never forget how you make them feel. Hey, I have another story for you to go into the third concept and our final concept today. And you know what? I've told you 2 stories so far. I like storytelling. I learned storytelling and leadership from other giants before me. So I want to tell you the time that a man named Frosty, Vice Admiral Dave Frost, told me a story to demonstrate how powerful it was, because I learned something from him because he told me a story. And so I found out I had command, my first command, which for all of us in the service, you always want to seek command, and it's a wonderful thing. And I found out in late 1995 that I was going to get command of a U.S. Navy fighter squadron, VF-31. And I was going to be able to go to command, be second in command for 18 months, and then be the commanding officer. And it was to die for. I was coming out of the Pentagon. I really wanted to command an F-14 squadron, and I got selected to do that from the board. And so, like we do a lot of times coming out of the Pentagon, and you kind of collect up the natives that are in the Pentagon, and we get together at the Officers Club. And so a bunch of us naval aviators were at the Officers Club at the Fort Myers Officers Club one particular Friday. And Vice Admiral Frost, who I actually did not know, came over to me through the crowd, and he's taller than me, but quite a bit actually. And he leaned down, kind of put his hand on my shoulder, and he goes, "Hey, Nasty," that's my call sign. Been that way for 36 years. "Hey, Nasty, congratulations on command. I'm going to tell you a story." And he told me this one time when he was in command of his fighter squadron aircraft carrier, and they were pulling into port, and it was going to be a 5-day port visit. They've been at sea for a long time. And all 12 of his F-14s were broken. They were down. They were all broken. And the Air Wing commander, who was his boss, told him, "Frosty, no liberty for your crew. Get those airplanes fixed. By the time we come out of port here after 5 days, I want all 12 F-14s fixed." So Frosty, of course, says, "Aye, aye, CAG. Yes, sir." Goes back to his squadron. Of course, he's thinking about that. How am I going to do this? Gets a squadron together at squadron quarters in the morning, first day of the port visit. He doesn't tell them that the CAG told him to do something. He just says, "Okay, you guys, we got 12 down F-14s. We've been at sea for a long time. We're going to do 3 days of liberty, and the last 2, I want the whole squadron in here. And we're going to get those airplanes up." And no kidding, the squadron went out. Now we have duty sections that stay on. So it wasn't the whole squadron going out for 3 days and coming back. So they rotated, but they got liberty. And if you mess with a sailor's liberty or chow, you're really messing with their life. And so had he not let the squadron go on liberty at all after that long, even though they knew they had to get those airplanes up, he'd have crushed their morale. And he knew he had to keep their morale up to get the high performance out of them. And guess what, everybody? That squadron came back with 2 days to go. Boom, all 12 F-14s were up. Frosty reported to the CAG, "Sir, ready to go. All 12 F-14s are up." CAG says to the skipper, "Good job, Frosty. Did what I asked you to do. Got the objective done," but he didn't shut down a squadron to make it done. That story stuck with me. And I used that story all the way through my commands, thinking about how to make sure that my team got enough rest so they could still perform at high performance. Because if you burn out your team, no matter what you hand them, they're not going to be any good. But that was the first time a leader told me a story. And so I encourage you, when you learn something and you've been through a situation, and you stand in front of a crowd, or you stand in front of your organization, you stand in front of your LT, use stories to describe how you made something happen. It's a favorite of mine. I tend to launch into stories all the time because I know how powerful it is. There's a book called The Power of Storytelling and Leadership, and a guy named Gardner, in his book on the art of changing minds, concludes that storytelling is an effective way to connect with others on an emotional level. His research reveals that stories can break down resistance and help people see the world from a new perspective, from your perspective. Because if they connect a human being with a story, they go, "Okay, that's real. I know he did that or she did that." Paul Zach's research on the neuroscience of storytelling indicates that stories can trigger oxytocin release. Oxytocin, chemical in your brain, builds trust and empathy. It's a connection chemical. Leaders who use storytelling effectively can align their teams with a shared vision and drive change more effectively. I think you'll note, and I think you know this, way back in prehistoric days, the leaders of those tribes would tell stories, and they'd even draw on the wall, and we see some of those pictures still in prehistoric caves, to describe to their team how things were happening kind of out there, and then what they experienced with. If you align your teams with a shared vision and drive change, and you're effective at driving a change, then the theme of storytelling becomes a key leadership tool. It enables leaders to communicate your vision and values in compelling ways. And you want to be able to compel the team to follow you. And I'm not talking about forcing them. They want to follow you. And if you're a good storyteller and you just dive into your story with passion, and this is what happened to me, and vulnerability, like when you failed or tripped and fell or fell on your knee or whatever, or hurt yourself or bumped your head or tried to run through that knee knocker I talked about a while back and hit your head and had to go down to medical. I mean, holy crap, you did that. Yeah, so be careful. It hurts. Don't do that again. They will tend to follow you. They will believe you're real. So my call to action to you in the storytelling is get a book called Storyworthy by Matthew Dix. It's a fantastic resource for beginners. In this book, Dix breaks down storytelling into practical techniques, such as finding the 5-second moment that transforms a story from ordinary to compelling. The book provides tools for structuring and deliver stories that can resonate, so you can craft your leadership story. But don't think it has to be a practice speech. Just tell a story. Hey, that one time I was here, just tell a story. Think about a time when you overcame a challenge or made a significant impact. Share the story with your team to inspire and connect with them on a deeper level. So that's my 3 core concepts today. So how do we wrap this all up? As leaders, you don't manage tasks. That's what managers do. It's often mixed up. You might be called a manager in your organization, but really what you're doing is you're influencing people through your leadership. You're demonstrating your leadership capabilities. It's lowercase leadership, thereby defining you as a leader. How do you do that? You inspire people through connecting with them. And through inspirational connection, you impact the lives of those you lead. Whether it's through empathy, like caring about their names, storytelling, understanding the deeper needs of your teams because you're curious enough to find out what's going on with each individual, any of those concepts comes right from your heart. The challenges for your team might be really great, and they might almost look insurmountable. But the opportunities for meaningful impact are even greater. And guess what? If you connect with those teams, those barriers are going to come down because there's more people. Imagine for a second, you're looking up at a 23-foot wall. You're all by yourself. I have to get over that wall. Maybe you can. I can't. But now you've got your team and there's another 10 people that work for you. Well, now you have 11 people get over that 23-foot wall. We can all kind of see what's going to happen next. Okay, we're going to lift ourselves over that wall, and we're all going to get over the wall because we're going to figure out how to overcome that barrier. And you can only do it when you reach out to your team. So here's my challenge. Overall call to action from our webinar today. Take these core concepts and start implementing them today. Listen deeply to the people that work for you. Commit yourself to going in and saying, okay, today I'm really going to listen. I'm not going to talk. I'm going to listen. Not just to the words, but what's the emotion? Are they frustrated? Are they burnt? Are they talking to you at all? So make sure you got something to listen to. If they're not talking, you have a problem and you need to open it up. And sometimes that's really hard, is to pull the cover back off of people that have just got so tired of trying to bring up these issues, they're refusing to talk anymore to leadership. Figure out the emotions. Share that story we talked about. Find one down in the depths of your experience and just share a story, one that reflects your values and a vision. Most importantly, lead with empathy and purpose. Let your leadership not be defined by your title, what's on your collar, your name tag, but by the heart you bring to your people. Nirvana is you don't want to disappoint them. They don't want to disappoint you. So all of you are going to work hard together for the goals and objectives of the mission. Hey, listen, if you'd like to dive deeper into these leadership principles and many, many, many more, you can find more insights in my book series on Amazon, where I explore these concepts in greater detail. You can also follow me on YouTube for ongoing leadership discussions. Reach out for speaking engagements if you'd like me to share these lessons with your team. You can join our leadership community by going to our website, www.mikemanazer.com, and subscribing to our newsletter. I appreciate you taking the time with me today. I encourage you to have courage to lead from your heart. Be vulnerable, be authentic, and I guarantee you that will garner high performance out of your team. The morale will stay high no matter what the conditions are. Lead well, be well. And